Hello and a very warm welcome to the Late Breaking F1 podcast presented by Harry Eade, Sam Sage, and me, Ben Hocking, back for another Wednesday episode. Sam, we've been left by ourselves to our own devices.
Yes, the sensible adult, aka producer Kirsty, who is obviously regularly off air, has flown the nest. She's off on her own adventures, and we wish you.
She's not left us.
No, she's had enough.
She's flying back at some point, but she's off on holiday, and so we have been left. And so I've decided to celebrate by having a vodka Red Bull as my drink for the show.
Bloody hell.
Also, the Red Bull expired 18 months ago.
Sam, my guy.
No. I might die.
Okay. I don't mind if you die, but just don't swear.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because Ben's going to edit this.
I can't be bothered to download the bleep button. It's a lot of work.
Anyway, we'll see how this goes.
We will.
I like the idea that we are such hard work that just a mere 21 days into the year, our producers had to go on holiday.
Yeah. Surprised it's that long.
Fair enough.
She's going to be coming back.
We'll see how far into this episode we get, but we're gonna play back and forth a little bit later on. We've got some comments from Toto Wolff regarding Cadillac, Lewis Hamilton's first day at Ferrari. It sounds like a children's book, but we're actually going to be talking about how that went. But we're going to start with Aston Martin denying a rumor that the team is approaching sponsors regarding the signing of Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen is under contract with Red Bull until 2028, but it's believed, like many modern F1 contracts, that there are a number of clauses in there, meaning that Red Bull will need to keep delivering for Max Verstappen, or an early exit could be orchestrated. Sam, this isn't the first time we've heard of Verstappen to Aston Martin, Verstappen to Mercedes, and another team other than Red Bull. If we're focusing here on Aston Martin just in the first instance, and we're looking at that versus Red Bull, what are the reasons for staying at Red Bull?
All of them at the moment. Red Bull are a powerhouse. Essentially, since they became a race winner, they haven't stopped being race winners. They had that first season where Vettel won that title, where he obviously picked up the 4 in a row. And even though they slumped behind Mercedes and the like when we had the hybrid engines introduced in 2014 and Mercedes jumped to the front, they have been arguably the most consistent team fighting at the front alongside Mercedes across that entire time period. It's almost getting to the point where they've been at the front for kind of like 17, 18 years in a row now. Not always winning championships, of course, but it shows they have pedigree. It shows they have consistency. It shows that they have the ability to overturn difficulties that they might turn up to with new regulations, with engine suppliers, with the change of personnel, the second driver's not operating to that level. There's a lot of reasons why you stay at Red Bull. He could be given absolutely anything under the sun if he asks for it. He's in such a privileged position, which he's earned. Max Verstappen has earned that position. He's not been given it by anyone. He's proving how talented he is, and Red Bull have responded by essentially giving him the world and letting him do with it whatever he wants. They have sensational amounts of resources. They have access all over the world for other things to do. The list goes on. I can't be listing it all because that would be the whole podcast. But Max Verstappen owns that team without putting pen to paper, essentially, and he can do whatever it is he wants. And they will essentially say yes. If he goes elsewhere, there may be a different dynamic in place, or he may simply not settle to a point where he feels comfortable in a car. The design might be different. There's endless reasons why it might go wrong for him if he were to move aside. Red Bull is a very, very safe place for him to be.
Right now, Harry, even coming off a year where Red Bull weren't able to claim the Constructors' Championship, where the first half was certainly better than the second half, what are the reasons for Verstappen choosing to stay at Red Bull versus the alternate options?
I think you're right. So it's the pedigree of what Red Bull have achieved so far versus that of Aston Martin. It's a move like that for Verstappen. It's a big old risk versus reward choice, isn't it? Because the safe bet currently is to stay with Red Bull, and after every rule change in F1, even if they haven't been challenging for championships straight away, they've always been at some point they've managed to get to a point where they're winning races. So The only time that's not happened is when they first entered between 2005 and 2008, and they'd only just entered then. So give them a break. The rest of the time they've adapted.
Come on, DC.
Yeah, I know. Sort it out, mate. But the rest of the time, it's been a very successful team. So that is the safe option. In terms of potential, we've spoken about this before and said if they don't get it right, what on earth have they been doing? But Aston Martin have so much potential to offer Max Verstappen here. He already knows what Adrian Newey can do with the car. Building the Andy Cowell aspect and the other people they've hired, the facilities they're building. It has the recipe, as we said, for a winning formula, for a tasty cake. Maybe not as tasty as Rob Marshall's, but
I want some Rob Marshall cake.
Marshall cake.
What kind of cake do you reckon he makes?
It will have food safety dowels in it because that's scaffolding to hold it up.
He's a Victoria sponge merchant.
But like 8 tiers.
But yeah, the recipe is all there for something really good for Aston Martin, but you've got to execute it, and thus far it remains to be seen whether they can do it. So Verstappen could view it as do I want a more surefire 1, maybe 2 championships, at least to be able to challenge, or do I want the potential of going to Aston Martin? And option A there could be more than that. He could actually beat the amount he could get a Red Bull, or option B is he gets none. I could see Verstappen. I can see Verstappen's pretty happy with his lot. He likes winning, but I just feel like he's not like it's a desperate. He's not desperate to get another one. I'm not saying he's not competitive. I'm just saying it doesn't feel like he's like he's got a target of championships he wants to reach. And if he went to Aston Martin and it didn't work out, yes, I'm sure there'd be frustration. But on the flip side, I feel like he wouldn't be. I don't think he'd regret it if it did happen. So, yeah, it's a tricky one. I think he's going to see how it goes. I can't see him moving there. I think he'd see how 26 goes first, because why not? And he's got that. He can afford to do that because Alonso and Stroll aren't going anywhere for that year. Certainly Alonso isn't. And we'll see after that. Alonso will be 45 by the time they finish. He'll be getting into the middle of his career.
If they end 2026 good, though, like if those last 5 races of 2026 are good,
he's
Alonso,
staying.
like cement feet. He's going nowhere.
2-year deal.
I live in the car now. You can't move me. But anyway, yeah, you got to imagine that maybe that could be Alonso's last year. It could not. But I think Verstappen will see how that goes first.
There are definitely reasons for staying at Red Bull. Man has won 4 championships in a row. That's good reason to stay.
Good reason.
Yes. And I won't repeat the same ones that you had, but to your point, Sam, of the fact that Verstappen has earned the position that he's got at Red Bull, and the fact that it feels like his car that has been developed over time. And you see like the recent reward of that, of the championship of 24, of 23, 22 and 21. And that's what you focus on because that's the biggest success and that's been the most recent. But it was a process to get to that point. And I think people forget that Verstappen at Red Bull was something that started, at least in the main team in 2016. And in 2017 and 18, there was clearly an excellent driver in there that was flawed at that point. Let's put it that way. And then I think people sometimes don't put enough credit for really 2019 and 2020, because those were the 2 years that Verstappen, I think, really came on leaps and bounds to then put himself in the position to be winning championships as we got into this new era of F1. You'll remember like 2020, for example. I mean, Mercedes were very quick that year. I saw a graphic earlier today of qualifying for the British Grand Prix in 2020 when they were like 1 second faster than everyone else and used the medium tires rather than the soft tires. But Verstappen was the only driver that year to really threaten Bottas and Hamilton on occasion. And then that paved the way for the championship run that he's having right now. So you don't want to throw that away unnecessarily, which is why I tend to agree with you, Harry, that I don't think he'd go anywhere before the end of this season. And instead, he'd probably look towards 2026. Sam, if we're looking at the pros of an Aston Martin move? What do you think they are?
Firstly, personal gain. I'm not saying Red Bull can't bless his bank account and give him everything he needs, but if the rumours be true, and they are indeed rumours, then Aston Martin are willing to dump an absolute, I don't know, ferry load of cash, dollar bills upon him. $1 billion is rumoured to be the amount of the contract spread over certain years, yes, but total of $1 billion is ludicrous. And I'm not talking about Fast and Furious. I'm talking about Formula One.
Big up.
Big up, ludicrous. He went to space, you know. Honestly, that is a silly amount of money. So that's one reason alone. The sheer financial capabilities. Harry's already mentioned the current facilities that they're working with, the newly built wind tunnel, Adrian Newey, Cal, who's now heading up the team, the fact that they've got Cadillac in place from Ferrari, who is a sensational talent. But that's just within Formula One. That's just if they get it right over the next 3 or 4 years. Verstappen eventually will look to retire from Formula One and move on. And guess what? Aston Martin are very much looking at their WEC program, their endurance program. They've got the Valkyrie that they're developing, of course. They've also been very successful in GT3, and Verstappen has dreams, open dreams that you spoke about, of owning a GT3 team. I'm not saying that with his current finances he couldn't go and do that anyway, but if he became an ambassador of Aston Martin for the rest of his life and got some mass discount at that being the car that they ran, would he not consider it? Would that not be available to him? Everyone's career comes to an end, and you have got to set yourselves up to do what you want. The man loves to drive cars. He loves to win in car races, and that gives him a door to do so. And Aston Martin, because of Papa Stroll, have almost endless financial resources, especially with the backing of the Saudis as well, with Aramco on board as it is. They have so much cash in hand that if they wanted to offer him every opportunity, and they said, we'll design the car exactly how you want it, it's essentially the perfect opportunity that if you were going to take the risk to leave Red Bull, a place where he calls home, that is built, purpose-built, essentially for his success, that is almost the best opportunity you're ever going to get to move somewhere and be as successful again. It'll either fall on its face, or it'll be the Lewis Hamilton moving to Mercedes moment that he needs. I think it goes one or two ways. I don't think there's any middle ground.
I think the the money aspect is definitely there, and Adrian Newey's definitely there, and personnel he's familiar with. But you're both right to identify that Verstappen loves a challenge, and it might come down to that. He might just want a new challenge, and Aston Martin presents that. Like we've seen that 2024 in particular, Red Bull was mired in scandal for most of the year, and it was highlighted by big name departures, and there always seemed to be controversy behind the scenes, whether it was Christian Horner versus Helmut Marko, who we know is very much in the Verstappen camp of that Red Bull team, or whether it was Adrian Newey leaving or Jonathan Wheatley leaving, and it always felt like there was something going on. And we've seen Max Verstappen long enough in F1 to this point that we know he's the type of person to probably think, don't really want to deal with that, I just want to go racing.
My guy wears the same outfit to the pits every single race day. He likes consistency.
Yeah, that's what he's there to do. And if Aston Martin or somewhere else can provide the opportunity to do that, then maybe he does consider a move. Harry, if it's not Aston Martin, Mercedes look like they would be the second suitors behind Aston Martin, but who would it be if not them?
I guess, yeah, Mercedes is the obvious option. The problem is for Toto and Mercedes, I don't know what they have. And yes, I know they are, the most successful team in F1, or one of. But what do they have to offer Max Verstappen in terms of potential that the likes of Aston Martin do? I don't think they do. I don't know. What have they got there? Their engine man, he's at Aston Martin. And they don't have these big hitters. They haven't got an Adrian Newey. They obviously they failed to win that race. If I was Verstappen and you'd look at it, you go, well, I might as well either stay here, Red Bull, but if it's an option between Mercedes and Aston Martin and he wants to leave Red Bull, I think he's going Aston Martin. So I don't know what other options are. Ferrari clearly off the table, and if they put him and Lewis Hamilton into a team, the world would actually implode.
Yes.
We wouldn't survive. So that's obviously not going to happen. And yeah, where are the other options? The other options are projects. And as I've already said, I think the one with the most potential currently, as you look at it, is Aston Martin. So I don't know why he'd choose another option, to be honest.
Mercedes had that thing though, that where you pull the steering wheel in on a straight, the tie is going slightly. No one else got that.
That is good.
Moving steering wheel here. Hello. Hey, don't look it till you try it.
I guess with Mercedes as well, the lure of like James Allison would be pretty good against anyone else apart from Adrian Newey. Like he stacks up pretty well against pretty much anyone in the F1 world, but Adrian Newey is another level entirely. I did have one question for you if we're looking at Aston Martin versus Mercedes, Harry, which is we talk a lot about Mercedes and the hybrid power unit era and how they got that started in 2014. They just dominated from the off. And obviously Lewis Hamilton's decision to go there was a very good one indeed. But at least like the 1 year before the start of the new regulations, 2013, Mercedes did finish runner-up that year. They did have a number of pole positions. Rosberg won a couple of races. Hamilton won one as well. Whereas we don't know, obviously, what Aston Martin are going to do this year. But if they're not able to unexpectedly rise up the ranks as Mercedes did the year before the start of a new set of regulations, is there a concern that he won't want to go there too early?
Yeah, there is a bit of that, but I think without Mercedes could have had another 2010, 2011, 2012 year in 2013, and it would not have made a jot of difference to their 2014 success. It'd have happened anyway. It's just it's helpful that they did have this sort of jump up, and they were in the mix, fighting for wins and podiums in that year before. And the might of Mercedes, why shouldn't they have been? They've been at it about 3 years at that point. I think, yeah, I'm sure that'll make him question it if Aston Martin aren't competitive this year. But with the regulation change that we have, it's set. This is what so many teams are banking on, like Williams and Aston Martin and Audi, for example, who currently own a tractor just to have an entry into Formula One next year. So I don't think. I'd be surprised if he saw, Aston Martin, if they didn't do great this year. I'd be surprised if Verstappen went, well, they're not going to do well next year. As I said, I think he would wait anyway. I don't think he's jumping in 26, mainly because Fernando will not let him. But I would be surprised if it put him off, because we've seen in the past, regulation changes do breed different results. Brawn GP, famously, the year before Honda were garbage. And then they were good the next year as Brawn GP. I know it didn't last, but changes like that happen. And sometimes teams that are banking on these changes, as Honda were, for example, it works out for them. So that's what I think he's going to be paying attention to. It's how, it's how the likes of Adrian Newey got swayed to come over, because he went and saw what they were doing, what the vision was. It's how the likes of Carlos Sainz has been persuaded to go to the middle of Oxford in a cold January in the UK and drive for them. It's the potential he's got to look at, and so I suspect if they have a bad year, it wouldn't put him off necessarily.
I think the issue with I think what you're saying is right, but the issue with this new regulation setup is you can't all bank on being the team that maximizes it. You can't all be the team that are the ones that end up at the top because you put time and money into it. Williams, Audi, we'll come to say, but Cadillac coming in. You've got the hopes of Aston Martin. Alpine will improve. Mercedes will get back to their original form. Ferrari, I hope, is get back to where they are. 8 of those teams.
More will be disappointed than happy.
More are going to be pretty grumpy. So the risk of leaving a team that has been at the front since 2009 to go to a team that has never being at the front is a huge risk. No matter the money, no matter the facilities, you've got to have the people to get it right. And Adrian Newey ain't going to be about forever. It's morbid, I know. He is not invincible, as far as I'm aware.
I don't know if you're right.
Yeah, I've not seen any evidence to the contrary, to be honest.
He might be holding the Philosopher's Stone, maybe. But until I see it in his hand, he does have an expiry date at some point. So,
out of context, I'll be there.
my point here is it's still a risk. Aston Martin could throw all the resource at the world, and they're doing a great job of preparing themselves. They read a bit of data wrong. The Honda get the engine wrong. It doesn't matter because you still won't be at the front.
A quick closing question on this one, Sam. Where do you think Verstappen is at with this decision right now? And will anything in 2025 impact this decision?
I think in true Max Verstappen form, this is a YouTube exclusive. He's probably pulled this face. That he does a lot. He does that a lot at a lot of interviews where he kind of just turns that bottom lip up a bit and then kind of goes, oh, I don't really know. He's, I reckon, incredibly focused on 25 right now. I think he's probably heard about it. He's probably gone, okay. But he's so privileged and deservedly privileged that I think he can wait, almost like what Lewis Hamilton did when he re-signed from Mercedes a couple of years ago. I think if he wanted to, he could call up Aston Martin on like February the 20th and go, I actually do fancy that drive if you want to make it happen. And I'll go, okay, everyone stop everything, run to the contract room and they will make it happen. I genuinely think that if he wants to wait until the last day of, before we hit to 2026 season, he'll go, yeah, go on then. I think he has that ability. So to me, I don't think he's sweating it. I think he can choose anything he wants and he'll get anything he wants.
I think 2025 for Red Bull and Verstappen is just Verstappen saying, don't give me a reason to panic. Like, if you don't give me a reason to panic, I'll stick around. But if something comes out that the power unit is way down versus its competitors, or more people leave, which might be a surprise given so many have left already. But unless you give me a reason of something like that, I'll keep my trust for another year. I think that might be the situation for him. But I think you're right. He's going to be predominantly focused, of course, on what he does best, which is racing a race car. Let's go to our first break on this episode. On the other side, Lewis Hamilton's first day at school.
Oh, it's just world champion after world champion today.
Welcome back, everyone. Talk about timing. Sam's just looked down at his phone between the first and second break and found that Lewis Hamilton is now, for the first time, in a red Ferrari race suit ahead of what will be tomorrow as we're recording this, but it would have already happened when you're listening to this. His first trip out in an old Ferrari around Fiorano 2 for the first of his testing of previous cars. He put out a nice little Instagram post, didn't he, of his first day at school, and man was looking rather fly. Official
I'm
comment.
sorry, he does. We'll get on. This is so weird.
It's
he
odd,
looks
isn't it?
excellent.
Nick, he looks so good.
It's so odd, though. I feel like I don't know what to do with myself. Anyway, sorry. I knew this. I knew I wouldn't be ready, and I wasn't even after all that.
Yeah. This is what he had to say. He had on Instagram. He said, "There are some days that you'll remember forever, and today, my first as a Ferrari driver, is one of those days. I've been lucky enough to have achieved many things in my career I never thought possible, but part of me has always held on to that dream of racing in red. I couldn't be happier to realize that dream today. Today, we start a new era in the history of this iconic team, and I can't wait to see what story we will write together." Obviously, Sam, we are not far off 1 year since we knew this was going to happen. But do his comments suggest that this really was, even if there is logic in there from a racing perspective, this was a deeply emotional decision?
I think so. I think all racing fans have a bit of a weird connection to Ferrari. I think all three of us do. So when you grow up in racing, when you are a racing driver, when he watched Formula One as a kid, when he became a part of it, the history, the emotion, the passion, the Tifosi, Monza, there's so much deep rooting in motorsport that goes back to Ferrari. There's a Ferrari on Harry's wall, for crying out loud, in Monza. It's right there, and he got that in TK Maxx in St. Austell. And it's correct.
TK Maxx.
Come on!
Come on now. Be a bam with swag.
Costa. No. I thought I was over the excitement And the last few days, the true Lewis Hamilton fan in me has come out. I'm not hiding it anymore. I'm coming out. I've always been a Lewis fan, but like I've tried to always keep it very non-biased on the show. But this has really sent me over the edge. I don't think I've ever been more excited for Formula One news than this right now. And we're seeing him in red is wow, it's crazy. So exciting. So yeah, I think he is very emotional about it. Lewis Hamilton has always been a heart on the sleeve, outspoken, emotional person, and I think that is a positive that he gets invested in things. He got invested in the Black Lives Matter. He's invested in equality in sport. He's always been the person that speaks up and speaks out, both in negative and positive situations. And I wouldn't be surprised that this situation of his is maybe, yeah, I was not having the best time at Mercedes. And so his heart, his emotions has led him down a certain pathway. And it's opened the door. He's known Freddie Vass a long time, the big C Vass. He's been around him for a very, very long time in both his junior career and his senior career. The timing feels fantastic for him. I wonder if they've got something absolutely cooking for a new regulation change. And that went so well for him the last time he made that switch, as we discussed in the last segment when comparing Verstappen for these things. Yeah, I think it is an emotional, heart-leg moment. And you know what? I bloody respect him for having the chance to go and do that because not many people in the world get to complete that level of a dream fulfillment moment.
Isn't it slightly odd that of Ferrari's lineup last year, the one that was dropped is the only one that's getting overwhelming social media respect from their own team? I don't mean respect, but Carlos Sainz is just the only driver that's featured as part of Williams' social
Was the only
media.
driver, mate? There's only one Williams driver this year. So.
At least for this week, it's only Hamilton that's at Ferrari, but understandably so, of course. Harry, do you think that these comments do point to this being such an emotional decision?
Yeah, a young man named Sebastian once said, "Everybody's a Ferrari fan, even if they say they're not."
Buemi, yeah.
They are. Yes, Sebastian Buemi. Yeah, everyone's a Ferrari fan. I'm talking about Vettel, folks. If you don't know who I'm referring to there, it's as you said, Sam. They are the powerhouse of the automotive car racing world, and everyone recognizes the red car because they've been the red car for, barring a couple of ones in the 60s where they were white and blue, but they've been the red car for all of F1's history, and you instantly recognize it. So I think everyone wants to drive for Ferrari in their career at some point. Pretty much all of the greats have done it. People always say that Senna would have ended up at Ferrari had he not been killed in 1994. Obviously, Schumacher went there. Vettel's gone there. Alonso's gone there. Luca Badoa's gone there. So
Eddie Irvine went there.
Yeah, and he held Sam. So
Lewis Hamilton's next. You're welcome, buddy. Come on down.
It's probably always been on his radar. I think for Hamilton, I reckon he would have happily finished his career at Mercedes had it been going well enough. I don't think it's always like he was destined to go here, but the opportunity arose, and so I'm not saying it's purely done on emotion here, but there's obviously that connection, and I can see it's a big honor to drive for Ferrari. Also, shout out to their content teams, social media, marketing.
They are killing the game.
Smashed it, and I mean, lots of commentary on the picture of him outside, the old
7 windows, 1 door.
Well, but just like there are there's so much noise in Formula One marketing, social media world these days that there's a lot of corporate speak, and so blessed to be here with my crypto sponsor, Gamble Poker Stars or whatever. And this was just sexy. It was just a man who is a great athlete, and he's got a freaking cool Ferrari F40 behind him at Maranello. And I was just like, yes. I mean, everyone loves it, obviously, but I respected that. They didn't go down obviously now he's in his overalls, that's just been posted, but there was no welcome to Scuderia Ferrari HP, whatever. It was
no
just
press conference either.
No, nothing. Just boom, here's a picture of him outside. And that's like, it would have been done in the 70s or something like that. when everything was better, obviously, because James Hunt was around. Yeah, I've super enjoyed that, and it's so weird, but I'm very excited about it.
It's quite cool, isn't it?
It's quite cool.
It's quite cool.
I don't think there's ever been anything cooler in F1. It's that cool.
I do think his comments lean towards this being an emotional decision. Obviously, it's not like Mercedes the last couple of years have been giving him the opportunity to win championships. So, you look at Ferrari, the move to Ferrari right now, based on their performance last season, is actually a move up the championship table, which wasn't known when Hamilton made the decision. But yeah, weirdly, it's from 4th up to 2nd, which again, not sure we were expecting. I got to give respect to Ferrari overall, because they are in how they have managed to maintain this. I'm trying to use a word that isn't aura. God, I'm gonna have to use aura.
Yeah, I'll allow it. It's allowed.
Thank
it's got
you.
so much aura.
How this team has maintained so much aura. There's Sam back with his Ferrari. We should have done teammate wars this week, because Sam would have been 10,000 points to none. Hamilton wins this year.
I've already had to have a conversation with myself to not let bias get in the way of winning teammate wars again. I have to win it again.
Okay, good to hear. Yeah, how Ferrari have managed to keep this aura about them when they haven't won anything in a decade and a half. But you're right, everyone still wants to race the red car. Like, that has stood the test of time, just based on all of the heritage, all of the previous success the team has had. Remember that for Hamilton, Michael Schumacher would have essentially been at the forefront winning titles all throughout Hamilton's 10 to 20, his teen years, right? That would have been dominated by Ferrari. So it makes sense that he would remember that success fondly, and then eventually one day want to go to Ferrari. And I think he would have ended up there earlier. I think it's just been a case of he's been in positions where the teams he's been at haven't given him a lot of reasons to go. Like McLaren, even at their worst, were still competitive. Mercedes have only become, by their standards, uncompetitive over the last couple of years. Every time that Hamilton might have thought of a move away, it's like, well, I have to leave a championship winning team or a close to championship winning team to do that. And that's a risk. So it seems like it's worked out quite naturally now. He's probably looking around at all of his championship trophies, all of his tires that he gets for the pole positions, and thinking, well, what more can I achieve in the sport? And it feels like a move. It sounds weird to say, but it's a move for him. Like it's something that he has wanted to do for a long time. And that's what stood out to me as part of the quote.
I swear to God, Ferrari, if you create the ugliest Ferrari livery that we've ever seen for this year, it's going to be hell to pay.
There's going to be blue on it, I imagine.
Imagine if this year it's just a blue Ferrari.
I mean, they wouldn't do that.
I've dreamed of racing in red my whole career. The first year they have a blue Ferrari.
It's like it's blue.
I just don't want the HP sponsorship to ruin it.
Oh, yeah. Can they make that like black and white or something?
Why isn't it black and white? It's ridiculous.
It's so...
Ferrari has never succumbed to colours of a sponsor apart from Shell, ever. Why now?
How much blue? Oh, they did have that neon green on the car.
Oh
yeah,
my God.
Point. That might be the worst thing I've ever seen on a Formula One car.
Oh, I hate that so much.
Mission win now.
I've seen an animal eat its own vomit. I reckon that's better.
That was the result of that. The car was the vomit.
Yeah. The car made that animal sick. So then they ate it.
Damn it, I forgot.
It's better now. I'll have it again. Honestly. Don't do that again, Ferrari.
That was so bad I completely forgot that existed.
I erased it from my memory. It was that bad.
What they like, it's the Italian flag. Isn't that what they tried to bring it home as? The red of the car, the white next to the green, or something like that.
God's sake. Moving on. Hamilton has driven, I guess is the right phrase based on when you're hearing this, around. Yes, provided there's no change in the next less than 12 hours. But he'll be driving around Fiorano tomorrow. This will be the first run. So I believe Ferrari have got the Circuit to Catalunya booked out for some other previous testing of some other testing of previous cars. Every team gets a maximum of 1,000 kilometers and 4 days to use in a season. They can use them throughout the year whenever they want to. Hamilton's going to have the full lot available to him across both tomorrow or today as you're listening, and 3 days at Catalonia at some point before the preseason test at Bahrain. Sam, does it make sense to give all that resource to Hamilton now when he needs it most?
100%. This makes total sense. Charles Leclerc is a fully embedded, pure part of Ferrari. The man lives and breathes Ferrari. You know, cut him open and prancing horses will run out of him. The man cannot do any wrong. He knows those cars brilliantly and performs in them sensationally well. He don't be needing no testing time other than what we get on the actual pre-season testing. He will be fine. He's very adaptable, very capable. But with Lewis Hamilton, he has got every stat behind him, every title behind him, every win behind him, every pole position behind him. That don't stop him being uncomfortable in a new car. That doesn't stop him having to learn a whole new system. He has struggled. I think the struggle is the fair word to say the last couple of years with how these very modern cars are being set up, how their balance is. And I don't think he's been put first by a team since 21. Realistically, I think him and Russell immediately became on an equal playing field, and I think it stayed that way for a long time. He was the old hand. He was the guy that knew what was meant to happen. But now Ferrari have gone, the investment in this is massive. It is almost crucial to us that he performs to a certain level. We cannot be seen for this to be a flop, both for our own fans, but for us, our shareholders, and for the performance of the company worldwide. Give Lewis Hamilton, an incredibly talented athlete, every single resource to be as successful as possible. It makes total sense that he gets everything under his belt and he is as comfortable as he humanly can be going into preseason testing, where he will then get another, what is it, day and a half that they each share now? So they'll get 3 days in total and they'll split that in half. The guy needs everything he can get, and that's no disrespect to Lewis Hamilton. It makes total sense to make him feel like he could not have anything more. He could step into that first race and go, I'm a Ferrari driver. I know how this car operates. I'm good to go, baby. Easy peasy.
You think it's a good idea to do that, Harry?
Yeah, I think so. It's more just operational, isn't it? I don't think there's anything he needs to learn too much around what it's like to be a Ferrari driver, because when he gets in the car, he's just a driver in a car. And it's more just the operational around how the steering wheel works, all the operations you have to do within the car as a driver these days, and it will be different. He's never, ever, ever driven an F1 without a Mercedes engine behind him.
Yeah,
that alone,
weird,
something to get used to. So it'll just be things like that this will be very helpful. It means that he then can get, as you say, this very limited actual testing in the new car. So it means when he gets to that point, he's not trying to work things out before, whilst he's also testing the car, he can just jump in and go. So yeah, very sensible idea. And I've nothing more to say on it. Ferrari playing a blinder with that one, because I don't see what else they bother using that for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I don't think Leclerc, like you said, I don't think Leclerc needs it. The only downside to it is it's fairly unusual to need the day throughout the year, but it is something that Red Bull did last year. So they had a day to use at Imola where they were trying to use an old car to work out what was wrong with the ride height. It was curb riding that was the issue at that point. So they were able to use, for Verstappen in particular, one of those days. Well, actually, the regulation has changed since then. But yeah, so that's the only downside, I guess, is that if you wanted to do that later on in the season, you won't have that opportunity. But I think the use cases of where that is really beneficial, they're quite limited. So I think it makes sense to, I don't know, give all the time, give all the distance to Hamilton at this point. Should we take our second break? On the other side, we've got some comments from Toto Wolff about Cadillac.
Catching my breath and running up the stairs to get this hat.
Welcome back, everyone. Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff says teams haven't been offered enough money to make up for the losses they face when Cadillac joins Formula One next year. Formula One management introduced a $200 million anti-dilution fee for newcomers when it was agreed in its last commercial deal with the teams. That expires at the end of this year. But Cadillac is reported to face a $450 million charge to join next year's championship. The fee would be shared between F1's existing 10 teams to make up for their reduction in prize money as a result of the fund being shared to an additional team. But Toto Wolff believes it's insufficient. He said, in the first instance, we lose out. We don't know what Cadillac will invest in Formula One. The compensation fee, which is currently set at $450 million, is too low. It does not make up for the direct loss in income. Whether teams will ultimately benefit from the sport expanding to include another team depends on what they bring to the sport. Only time will tell what value the sport gains from having an 11th participant. If the sport's value increases, then everyone benefits, but we just don't know yet. No one has spoken to me about Cadillac's exact plans.
Why would they, Toto?
I'm sorry you've been unbriefed, Mr. Wolff.
Why would they come to you and talk about this?
Harry, do you understand his viewpoint?
No, shut up, Toto.
Wow,
What are you talking about?
thank you. You're so right.
What on earth are you? I mean, Toto Wolff normally is pretty judged. He doesn't often come under the radar for the LB's Stop Talking Award, but he's not far. I mean, luckily, another man named Ben has already wrapped it up for the year.
Mohammed Ben Sillyman's got in there early. Don't you worry.
If he hadn't, Toto would be really in the running. Shut up, man. They're paying $450 million for the privilege of entering the sport. That's probably enough. Well, I don't.
It's a bit low, isn't it? Bit cheap.
Low. It was lower, and you agreed to it being lower. You fool! It's now more than double that, and apparently now that's also too low. Do you think I'm worried that? No, sorry. I think he's worried that the Cadillac are going to come in and wipe the floor with Mercedes. Can you imagine? That'd be embarrassing. Unlikely.
Banter.
Unlikely, but it'd be banter.
I miss my Cadillac.
Well, maybe that's what they'll become. Yeah, look, this is just. I don't know what he's fishing for here. You've all agreed to it at this point. They're coming in. Just get good and get over it. Quite frankly, I don't want to hear about it. Cadillac coming in. They're paying quite a lot of money to be here. You're not going to lose out on anything. So shush.
Great point. Sam, what do you think?
I do not understand. You all agreed a rule for a start, and you then are still in the rule period that you agreed. And not only have they complied with the rule that you decided they thought was fair, you have then gone, actually, I'm receiving more than double what I'd have got when I agreed on the rule that I thought was fair. So more fair, really, more fair for you. But that's not enough now. So even though we're still in the rule period that you agreed, that you and the team said was right, and they're paying more anyway, it's still not enough. Let me also remind you that when you joined Formula One, there was more teams than what we've got currently. And also teams have left. And the value of the sport between 2014, when you became the dominant team, and the value of the sport now is what? Double what it was worth? Do you not think that there's already enough extra cash floating around from you that could be applied to an 11th team? Because it's still not as diluted as what it was 12, 13 years ago, when we had absolute piles of poo driving around at the back. At least Cadillac's a well-known name. At least they're a manufacturer. At least they're going to bring their own engines in time. They're owned by General Motors, for crying out loud. They're at least got money and they're decent. Do you not remember HRT? They were fine, apparently, to poot along around at the back. Just
agreed. They were fine.
I've got a controversial take on HRT in a minute, but you carry on.
All right, we'll get back to the HRT chat in a second.
Harry hot take of an HRT.
I just saw about it yesterday, but anyway, carry on.
All right, okay. My point here is so much has changed about Formula One in the last decade. It is so much more filled with value and cash and potential that actually having another team which comes from America, the largest growth market in the sport, that is produced by Netflix because of Drive to Survive, which you chose to not be a part of initially as well, and you suddenly think that you have the right to demand even more money than what is already double the entrance fee that you again agreed upon a few years ago. There's no logic in it. You don't get a say. Shut up, wind your neck in, and just deal with the rules that you agreed with. I don't know why these teams think they get such a say in what's going on. It is hysterical, the amount of self-righteous chat they come out with. Shut up, win the races. You ain't done that for a while.
Harry, if your hot take about HRT is they weren't very good. I'm going to be really annoyed.
That is spicy.
They're not noticed. They're not very good. No, yesterday I saw. I don't know why I saw this. I just saw a few pictures of the 2012 HRT. My take being, I think that's one of the best looking F1 cars I've ever seen.
Remind myself.
Hold on, yeah, now I'm.
It's not the 2011 one with your sponsor could be here, because that's one of the worst.
Give us a year, please.
2012, the last year in F1.
Everyone, Google it now. Who's listening?
Google it now.
Google it now. What, the white with the gold and the red stripes?
Yeah, and the gold wheels. I just saw a few pictures. I was like, actually, HRT, you were slow as balls. You had no sponsors. That's a sexy looking car.
Nah.
Yeah, nah. That was a hot take, you're right.
If you agree with Harry, let us know.
No one will.
Right into, I don't agree.
At gmail.com.
Actually, can you leave a 5-star review and your tagline could be whether you agree or not that the HRT is a sexy looking car, please?
2012, okay, folks. The rest of them were they were sinners, but the rest, the 2012 one was good.
Back from HRT to Toto Wolff. That's the natural segue. I understand his viewpoint because he's looking out for Mercedes' profit margin. Like that's what he's there to do, I guess. And that's what he's saying with this. If you look at the prize money and how it's split, it's broadly split into 3 categories of there's an equal payment that goes out to all the teams in F1. Obviously, that as a percentage is going to be hit as a result of this. You've got the performance related prize money. Again, the percentages will have to be redivvied out, so you're going to get less on average. And also the bonus payments that are paid to some of the teams, that will be hit as well. It's difficult to say what the actual revenue is to be shared amongst the teams each and every year. I mean, I've seen estimates from $1 billion to $1.6 billion, which that $600 million, that's a lot of money to cover from low end to top end. But needless to say, it's a lot. And it amounts to about 50% of the profits that come from F1. The thing is, I don't have a lot of sympathy here for Toto Wolff. Because firstly, let's talk about bonuses. Mercedes get a bonus based on, I can't remember what they call it, but they and McLaren and Red Bull get a bonus based on how good they've been somewhat recently. It's a bit flimsy and it's a bit vague, but they get a bonus based on who they are. A lot of other teams aren't getting that, so don't really have a lot of sympathy for you. Same goes for you, Ferrari, getting 5% of the revenue every single time just based on heritage. Don't care. You don't deserve it.
I don't know.
You've got a Ferrari hat on, Sam.
They can have 5% of it. They can have 5% of this too.
I mean, if they actually, used it to win a championship, I wouldn't be so angry. But, they've had that bonus for a while and it doesn't help them win a title. So sorry, Ferrari.
So true.
Also, the performance payout, obviously, that is the better you perform, the more you get at the end of the year. I've got a really good way of ensuring you don't lose money, Toto. Don't finish 4th.
It's a good idea, actually.
That is a zinger.
Write that one in the book.
And I do mean finish higher than 4th, by the way. Don't go down. That'll get worse for you. It's difficult, again, to draw any actual numbers to this because the estimates are so far out as to how much each of the teams are actually getting. My estimate is I don't think a team is losing more than 15 million in a year by Cadillac being in the sport. And we know that based on 450 million being shared out across 10 teams, Mercedes should get 45 million from that. I don't think in 3 years they will lose money as a result of Cadillac being there. They will break even. And again, that is assuming Cadillac do not bring anything to the sport, which I think they will. But that's assuming that they don't provide any value to actually grow the sport. So, I don't really... Your opinion should be completely invalid, and I mean that in the nicest way, because I mean that for all team bosses. Your opinions should be invalid on this. It isn't down to you. I don't know. Just grow up, as I would say.
In conclusion, grow up. Just
Just get on with the rules. Why can't they just deal with the rules that they help make?
Yeah. God damn it. Who said that? Oh, it was me again.
Oh, it's me again.
Oh no.
Toto
Who's
Wolff was
talking?
actually King Julian.
Oh, it's me again.
Who's making that noise?
You think he tells his F1 drivers to put their hands up? It's more fun.
He might do, you know. I can't confirm or deny that one. Anything, Harry, about the process of Cadillac joining that could be and should be updated now that it's happened?
Don't make such a hash of it all. F1 and FIA. I mean, FIA. Guess what they wanted him, but it's been ugly and messy and not looked good on F1. It was only, early, basically this time last year, wasn't it? It was actually pretty much almost a year ago that the FIA said, F1 said no, not coming in, and then managed to smother that news up entirely with a certain Mr. Hamilton going to Ferrari, which was no way a coincidence. That alone was just it was just messy. They didn't look good, and it was obviously all political because they didn't want. They clearly hate Michael Andretti for some reason, and
it's a great mystery, isn't it? Why does everyone hate Michael Andretti?
Is he really that much of an ass?
No, even in the F1, his time in F1, he wasn't good. Correct. Was he offensive? No. What did he do wrong apart from being mediocre? I'm not sure. Anyway, but yeah, the whole it's just too political. Firstly, with whatever they had against Michael Andretti, there was clearly something against Ben Silliam as well in F1, and the teams should not have any say in whether there's a new team coming into F1. I understand, as you said, the financial interest, and yes, that should be worked out, but they have worked that out. That's what that was agreed to. After that, doesn't make a blind bit of difference what any of the teams should say. It just shouldn't matter. It should be, here's our sport, and I've said this before, here's our sport. Would you like to come and enter? Other teams that are currently in this sport have no say whether you can come in or not. And then you probably get quite a few applicants. I'm not saying it'll be good, but currently it's very closed off, and that's not the way forward to go in my view. So it needs tidying up, because if you're another potential team looking to make the jump into Formula One, and you look at the past year of trying to get Cadillac into Formula One, you go, do you know what? I'm all right.
Yeah.
I don't really want to do that. That's quite messy.
I think that's a fair judgment, to be honest. I was thinking that because a lot has been made of adding value, right? And how teams in the F1 generally didn't think that Cadillac would add, or Andretti at the time wouldn't add enough value. Excluding Ferrari, I maintain the other 9 teams in this championship, if any of them left by themselves and no other team left at the same time, the viewership would not substantially change. I think it's just Ferrari.
I think it's a fair analysis. I think drivers have more of an impact on viewership than teams. You've seen with Sergio Perez, there's already been talk about the Mexican Grand Prix, the health of that, how that is going to be attended. We saw with when he crashed out, actually, speaking of Sergio Perez, at the Mexican Grand Prix, that the grandstands emptied out before the end of the race because they weren't seeing their favorite driver go round. It can have a huge, huge impact. You've seen the impact that Colapinto alone has had by moving from Williams to Alpine. Their social media is flooded with Argentinians who are passionate about their driver. Apart from Ferrari, I think you're right in saying this, you don't really get that level of its supreme team sponsorship. It's very much drivers that people follow. I'm sure Lewis Hamilton will have a huge impact the day that he decides to step aside, and Max Verstappen and Norris and Leclerc have got to that point as well, I think. What's interesting about the regulations when it comes to handling a new team such as Cadillac is when we sit down, and I say we, like we're going to be involved in that conversation.
Are we doing it?
We're in there. I'll pat Toto on the back and I'll say, all right, mate, remember these ones next time you're the decision made. When they come around to rehash these rules, and like you said, Ben, the regulation lasts for about a year now from this point, and they're going to have to sit down and rediscuss these. This level of implementation needs to be discussed. What qualifies as someone who is allowed to enter Formula One if they meet that financial criteria. Whether you make that financial criteria 800 million, a billion, whatever number you pick, it's outrageous and it's silly, whatever number it is already. I know that for a fact. But you need to make that criteria crystal clear. So one, you don't get entries who turn up and are silly, because got a lot of money behind them, but they have no authoritation in the space. Authoritation is not a word. So there you go.
Authority?
No, everyone knew what you meant.
I think authoritation stays.
Yeah.
You need to put some criteria down. Are you an established automotive creator? For example, Ford, Toyota, someone who makes road cars. Sure, tick. You're welcome to come in and you can meet the financial. Sure. If you are not one of these and you want to be a customer team, they need to have a separate set of guidelines. For example, I don't know, I'm going to pull these out my backside here. Have you got 10 plus years competing in another elite series? What is that? Endurance racing, IndyCar perhaps. It might be IMSA, something like that allows you to say, we have been established in export. We've shown we're financially capable. We're competitive. We've got sponsors and we can end. If that's the case, sure. But they cannot be mucking around in courts, public back and forth, uncertain what the rules are. Oh, we think a team can enter, but actually, even though you've met all the criteria, we're still going to say no. Why? Oh, we don't actually know. We just want to say no. You can't do that legally. There's literally legal repercussions. It's anti-competitive. So whatever it is that happens, and I don't care. As long as there is technically a door that opens for teams and they meet that criteria, I don't care what that is, but just make it clear and known so people can actually do it. Because you're going to miss out. We as fans, you as a sport, will miss out. Make it clear. I don't care how hard it is. Just make it clear on what that hardness is.
Let's take our final break on today's episode. On the other side, it's F1 Back and Forth. Welcome back, everyone. It's time for F1 Back and Forth.
F1. Back and forth. It's F1. Back and forth. It goes backwards. Then goes forth, it's F1. Back and forth, F1.
F1 back and forth. Harry versus Sam. They keep going back and forth on correct answers until one of them can't think of a correct answer or gives an incorrect answer. This one's a bit horrible.
Oh, do we get struck?
Oh, no.
I'm going to give you 3 strikes on this one.
3.
Because this one's a thinker. You're going to have to think. I want you to name the 16 drivers that have scored in 60% of the races that they have taken part in. At least 60% of the races they've taken part in.
Say that again. Explain that to me like I'm 5.
So if you've taken part in 100 races and you've scored in 80 of them, you've scored in 80% of your races. I'm looking for anyone 60% plus.
So if they're competing in 100%, 100 races, they need to have scored in
Forget
60.
the 100 you need to have competed in 30 races, but the 100 races was just an example for percentage reasons.
I understand how percentages work.
Yeah. So at least 30 races, because otherwise you're going to get some really random Indy 500 from like the 1950s people in there.
I know this sounds silly. I'm going to have to write this down. More than 30 races.
Has done at least 30 races.
Scored in 60% of those races.
Yeah.
Oh.
How many are there?
16.
16?
So, Harry, who do you want to go for first?
Lewis Hamilton.
Fairly safe shout, yeah. He's number 1 on this list. He has scored in 88% of the races he's taken part in.
Man don't miss.
It's not bad, is it?
Pretty good.
Man does miss, but only 12% of the time.
12% of the time he misses. Yeah, good start.
12%.
Michael Schumacher.
Michael Schumacher is a correct answer. He is 8th on this list. 72% of his races he scored in. Harry, back to you.
Max Verstappen.
Max Verstappen is a correct answer. He's 3rd on the list. 83% for him. Sam.
Lando Norris.
Lando Norris is a correct answer. He's 4th on this list. He's scored in 80% of the races he's taken part in. Harry.
Sebastian Vettel.
Sebastian Vettel is a correct answer. He is 7th on this list, 73%. Sam.
I'm really annoyed that you picked Sebastian Vettel.
This is of all time, by the way.
All time, yeah.
Oh, God.
It's a big old wide range.
Fernando Alonso.
Fernando Alonso is a correct answer. He is 11th on this list, 66%. Harry.
You know what this means, Harry? If we could get plus 60% on the something's coming.
Wow. This is quite rogue. Jackie Stewart.
Jackie Stewart is not a correct answer, but you are incredibly unlucky because I've written down all the answers from 59 to 50. He scored in 58% of his races.
That means you could be unluckier.
There are 2 unluckier answers, yes. So, first strike for Harry. Sam, back to you.
How many strikes we got?
You can have 3.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, that's how difficult this is going to be. We'll be here all night. Tis my go.
Confirmed.
Charles Leclerc.
Charles Leclerc is a correct answer. He scored in 78% of the races he's taken part in. Harry.
Kimi Räikkönen.
Kimi Räikkönen is a correct answer. He's 14th on this list, 63%. Sam.
Oscar Piastri.
Oscar Piastri is a correct answer. He is 5th on this list with 78%.
Alain Prost.
Alain Prost is a correct answer. He's 13th on the list at 64%. Sam.
Daniel Ricciardo.
And that is a first strike for Sam. Daniel Ricciardo is not a correct answer. 53% for Ricciardo.
Wait, what do we like this, Daniel?
Harry, back to you.
Senna.
You know how I said you could be unluckier?
Oh,
Got 59.
59%. Just outside. Very unlucky. So that's a second strike for Harry. Back to you, Sam.
Can I ask a question, Ben?
You can.
Did you find a website that did this, or have you done this manually for every driver known to mankind?
I found a website and had to adapt it a little bit for the quiz, but it's definitely not the second of what you said.
I'm going to say, this must have taken a long time. Okay. Jim Clark.
Jim Clark, I have to say, is not a correct answer. I thought this was going to be a correct answer. I would have gone for it as well. 56% for Jim Clark.
Damn you, Jimothy.
that is, Jim is short for Jimothy, yes, indeed. Harry,
James, Jimothy.
If I can call you that.
I call you Jim. This Nick Heidfeld.
Oh, I love the shout, but it's not a correct answer.
Is he even near the list? He just used to score points.
Yeah, I know
time.
what you mean.
But no.
No.
All right, never mind.
Sorry, mate.
He did have a spell, I guess, further down the grid to begin with.
Yeah, and to end with.
Oh, yeah, valid point. Oh, yeah, he was in that. Yeah.
That
He was
probably
in a
hurt.
real bad car the last couple of years.
Never mind.
Never mind. Sam, back to you.
Juan Pablo Montoya.
Montoya is the 16th answer on this list, 61%.
Big up JPM.
Harry, back to you. All your strikes used up.
Jenson Button.
Jenson Button is not a correct answer. I'm afraid 53% for Jenson Button, which means, Sam, you take the win. Any other names?
Bottas.
Bottas was the other driver on 59%.
I'm glad I can risk it because that last few years in the Sauber have made me uncomfortable.
So he ruined him.
Yeah.
There's 5 answers left on the board.
Are they any of them current?
Yes. One of them is.
George Russell?
No, George Russell's 50%.
Oh,
Williams
what's
hurt him a lot.
Ex-teammate was first on that list.
Wow. Savage. One of them is on the grid this year.
Carlos Sainz?
Carlos Sainz, 70% for Carlos Sainz. One of them was on the grid last year.
Sergio Perez?
Sergio Perez, 67%. The number 2 answer with 84%, you have to go back a very long way for.
Fangio.
65%, someone who has retired in the last 10 years. Actually, the same can be said for both of these drivers have retired in the last 10 years.
David Coulthard. No, he wasn't the last 10 years. Retired in the last... Nico Rosberg.
Nico Rosberg at 65%. And then there's one at 61%.
There's not a single 69%.
No, sorry.
What's the point in this game? That was the only fun bit.
It's a real shame.
Yeah.
Who also retired in the last 10 years.
Yeah, twice.
Retired
Twice. I've said Fernando.
He retired once, then decided, nah, well,
It's going to retire again.
Who's
What
retired and then come back and retired again?
Harry, this is your bag.
you got to keep your cool, baby. Come on.
Oh, Kimmy.
Who said Kimmy?
Oh.
Oh, my mind is so blank.
Hang on. What year did they retire?
First time.
Well, they retired in 2017.
What, for good?
Yeah.
Oh, Felipe Massa.
Felipe Massa.
Oh,
Felipe, baby. Come on.
Felipe, baby.
That wasn't his fault. They dragged him back.
Well, sure.
I don't want to do it.
Yeah, that's true. He retired and then was back the next year. That's
Yeah.
rare. That doesn't happen very often.
All right, okay.
Oh,
Yep.
dear.
So, Sam, you take it. I mean, you've had a few draws lately, Sam. You can have the win outright on that one.
It's the hat. I'm never taking it off.
It's like my Ferrari hat for Charles Leclerc wins.
That's it. I should wear them only for the games.
Okay. That's going to do. Oh, wait, no, it's not. Psych.
Ooh.
There's an even better segment coming up. It is the greatest segment in all of F1 podcasting. It is the
LB question of the week.
Week.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. I mean, we've further lent into the Lewis Hamilton to Ferrari discussion this week. We, if you haven't seen it on Instagram, we have posted the photo of Lewis Hamilton outside Maranello and asked, what should the album be called?
This is a good question of the week, actually.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
didn't even come up with it.
No, that's very true. But they are... they're all excellent, let's be real.
End of segment, they're all good.
A really good one from Grady Stahl, which is a famous quote from, I guess, now 2 Ferrari drivers. There's something between my legs.
True.
Yeah, that's true. Cali F, who comes in with Saudi Arabia has reinvested.
Oh. I hadn't thought of it from that angle, you know.
Yeah, it's a good show, actually. It's a good show.
I've got one from Joe. We were supposed to make an album? We can barely make a car.
Yeah, fair.
CC, the machinist or machinist, or how you want to pronounce that, said
no.
Hey,
2,800. That survey was anonymous. It could be anyone from anonymous.
I goaded him. I've goaded him to say
You actually
something
bait
else
it
other than
really
the
good.
number. I've got you rattled, son.
We're in an
Doesn't
argument
watch on
with the
YouTube.
listener.
He literally doesn't even know. Speaking of, the Godfather said the Count of Maranello, which I think is fantastic.
Indeed.
I can't say it. Anarchist Cookbook said straight out of strategy. Which is quite good.
Very
very
good. Very good.
Amanda said Boulevard of Broken Dreams.
Yeah, that's gonna hurt. Usually Pretty Ugly said, Big Scarlet rules now.
Nate Kelber, this is on Instagram as well, has said, "It's a me, Kimmy Antonelli."
No. No, it's a God.
That's not me.
It's not a me, Kimmy.
It's a Lewis Hamilton.
The final one from me, from Kyle. Hopefully it's not a rap album because the title would be a swear word. All right, Mohammed
Yeah.
Ben Sulayem.
And Ian said, "It's me, Ferrario," which is also so terrible.
Off we started.
Oh dear. Hunter Erratic said it'd be the soundtrack from The Empire Strikes Back. Just imagine.
I mean, all the Godfather theme.
I don't remember Lewis Hamilton at Hoff, but all right.
Do you not?
No.
It's because he's under the Darth Vader mask. That's
Yeah.
why.
Oh, fair play. Thank you very much, as always, for all of your answers across Instagram and Twitter/X for these. Great work. You're all very funny. A lot of comments to get through. So if yours wasn't read out, it doesn't mean we don't think it's funny. We absolutely do. We just have to rattle through them quite quickly. Sam, if you wouldn't mind getting us out of here, we've got another Sunday episode coming up.
Folks, we will be back on the Sunday. And before that, we're also going to be recording another Patreon episode. So if you want to be involved, if you want to come and join me and Ben, actually, we're going to be doing a full discussion on full calendar-wide tier ranking list of the circuits on the calendar. So if you think that's my GOAT calendar, that's the one. And we might put it in, I don't know what the tiers are going to be called yet, but there'll be some good tiers and there'll be some very bad tiers. And your favorite could be in the very bad tier. So come and argue with us in the comments. Come and get involved. Come and see what we say. But if you can't, no worries. Join us on Sunday for more F1 chat, or you can chat to us in the Discord. The link's in the description. Follow us on social media, Late Breaking F1, where you can maybe get joining in on the question of the week and other such brilliant pieces of content, or you can watch us on YouTube and see my fantastic hat, Late Breaking F1 over there as well. That's it from us. In the meantime, I've been Samuel Sage.
I've been Ben Hocking.
And I've been Harry Eads.
And remember, keep breaking late.
Oh my God,
No.
Wednesday.
it's a Wednesday. What have I done?
You've done the wrong game.
Oh no, it's me. Give me Antonelli. I'm so sorry, folks.
Oh, kill the recording.